Hello, friends and clients of JLW Immigration Law Group. I am Jennifer Walker Gates, board certified immigration attorney. I am here today to talk with you about credible fear interviews. These are often the very first part of what becomes an asylum case in the United States. So for anyone who is seeking to come to the United States for safety, for protection against violence, persecution in your home country, credible fear interviews are very, very important. And there have been a lot of changes to the process recently. So we're going to be talking today in this video about the credible fear interview process, kind of how it works and what you need to explain and show and prove in that interview in order to be able to continue with your asylum case. Before we jump into that, I'm going to say we are here on Wednesdays at noon each week to explain updates in immigration law and answer your questions live on the air. If you have questions or comments live that you want to post, I will be happy to respond to those. For your safety, we ask that you, when you ask a question, please do it as though you're asking about somebody else or it's a hypothetical case so that your personal information is kept confidential as best as possible. Also, please share, subscribe, and comment to this video. We are here to make sure that the immigrant community in the United States has reliable, trustworthy immigration information. The way that we do that is by having an audience that helps spread the word. So if you know anyone who can use this information, please share that with them. Subscribe to our channel. Leave us comments. We do respond to those. And join us on Wednesdays. También hablamos español. Entonces, si tiene pregunta en español, no hay ningún problema. Today's presentation will be in English for the most part, pero también hablamos español. Entonces, no dude dejarnos una pregunta, comentario en español. All right, with that, let's talk about the credible fear interview. So when someone is coming into the United States, particularly through the southern border, it's a little different from the Canadian border. There's some other stuff going on at the Canadian border. But if you're coming through the border that the United States shares with Mexico, and you are apprehended by immigration officers, you will be asked if you have documents and permission to come into the US. If you don't have a visa or some permit to come into the United States, then you will be subject to what's called expedited removal. That is basically a deportation that is conducted by the agents of the US Customs and Border Patrol. The only way to avoid that expedited removal, expedited deportation, is to successfully claim fear of return to your home country because of your race, religion, nationality, political opinion, or what's called a particular social group. And we'll talk about each of these things a little bit more without going into a whole lot of depth about those particular facets of an asylum case, because what we're going to be talking about first today is just this credible fear interview process. There have been a lot of changes to the credible fear interview process recently. And when you come in and you get picked up and you're put in expedited removal, and the only way to get out is to request a credible fear interview, that means that you're going to be placed with an officer from the USCIS Asylum Office who is going to be asking you questions about the basis, your reason for coming to the US. And you have to show that the reason you're coming is for protection against persecution, okay? Now, it used to be that officers at the border were really trained to ask if you were afraid, okay? That is not the case anymore. What we are seeing now is that a lot of people are being removed both to their home countries as well as to third countries where they have no ties and no connection even though they should have been given a credible fear interview. The rules about who gets a credible fear interview have changed recently. Under the Biden administration, not Trump, under Biden, the rules changed to say that the person needs to make a loud outcry of fear in order to receive that credible fear interview. So, if you are coming into the United States to seek protection, you cannot afford to be quiet about your fear. You have to tell the officers that you encounter and that encounter you, I am afraid, I want a credible fear interview. Please write it down. I'm afraid, I want a credible fear interview. Please write it down. Okay. That is what needs to be shared with those officers. You need to make sure that they write it down. You need to tell every single one of them that you meet that you want that credible fear interview, because otherwise, if you're quiet and you're patient with them, maybe you mention it, maybe you say you're afraid, but you don't see them write anything down, there is a really, unfortunately, strong chance in this environment, in this day and age, that you will not be allowed to have that credible fear interview. Um, the other thing that has changed recently is that if you are entering the United States at some place other than um, an, an immigration office, okay, if you're coming in across the border, across the river illegally at the southern border, um, they are going to assume that you're not eligible for asylum unless you qualify for an exception. This is a new regulation, again, put in under President Biden, not Trump, but of course, Trump is keeping it in place, saying that you need to enter lawfully or you don't qualify for asylum. Now, if you enter at a bridge and go directly to an immigration office at the border, one of the ones on the bridge where the CBP officers are checking cars, are checking visas, are standing there with dogs, looking over people's luggage and things like that. If you go to one of those, ostensibly, that should get you out of that need to prove that you qualify for an exception to the ban on asylum for people who enter illegally. It remains to be seen how all of that will be interpreted under the Trump administration, because under Biden, they had set up CBP-1 as a mechanism for people to use to come in legally and then request the credible fear interview. As we know, the Trump administration got rid of CBP-1 as a way to enter with a permission. And so now people are having to come in either, crossing the river or going straight to the bridge. Technically, when you go straight to the bridge, you've already crossed the US border. However, there's really no other way to try to request asylum at this time. And that's the most kind of lawful way to do it. So, the credible fear interview, what happens is an asylum officer will ask, what is the reason that you're coming to the United States? Um, Again, asylum exists for people who are seeking protection from persecution based on 5 possible protected factors: race, ethnicity, like skin color, what, ethnic group they belong to. That's one, race. Religion, nationality, where you're from, what country you're from, political opinion, if you're a political activist and you're afraid of being harmed because of your political opinion, that's another ground for seeking asylum, and particular social group. Particular social group is a little bit broader. It can be defined in a number of different ways, but it needs to be something that is fundamental to you. You can't change it and you can't hide it. And you shouldn't have to hide it, right? It's more than just, something that you choose. It's something that is fundamental to your identity. So some particular social groups that have been recognized for asylum purposes can have included some families. Some people have been harmed because of their family ties. Um, Women who have been subjected to um, potentially abuse, forced sterilization, forced female circumcision in their home countries. Some women in those groups have been recognized as a particular social group. Members of the LGBTQ community have been recognized as members of a particular social group that can qualify for asylum. And so that credible fear interview, the standard is pretty low for being able to pass it. You don't have to have a ton of proof yet. It's not the final phase. It just gives you permission to continue on and in the asylum application process. It's really, really important for your safety. If that is the reason, if safety is the reason you're coming to the United States, protection from danger, it's very, very important in that credible fear interview, first of all, to request it and make sure you are provided that interview if you request it. That is really the crux right now of what I wanted to share in this video, is that you have to demand the interview and demand that the officer you are speaking to write it down and convey it to his or her superiors, and keep insisting and keep requesting until that interview is given to you. Then in the interview itself, you need to be able to show that you are going to be harmed if you're returned to your home country for one of those 5 reasons: because of your ethnicity, because of your religion, um, because of your political opinion, your nationality, or your particular social group. And if you have more than one of those at play happening, some people are members of both a religious group and an ethnic minority. Some people are members of a particular social group and a religious group that can be harmed for those reasons. You need to make sure all of that information is given to the officer. So, credible fear interviews, very, very important. Not the final stop on the road to asylum. They are the first hurdle, the first gate through which you need to go to get to your asylum case. And so make sure, if you know people who are planning to seek refuge, seek asylum in the United States, this is a really difficult moment to do it. And people are still doing it by the hundreds, at least, if not thousands, every day. So if you know someone who is going to request asylum at the southern border, it is really important that they go directly to an officer on the bridge. Do not cross the river. Don't get wet. Stay on the bridge. Ask an officer. Ask for a credible fear interview. Ask over and over and over again. Tell them that you're afraid because you're going to be harmed or killed if you go back to your home country. Make sure you seek a supervisor. And if you are talking with someone in this situation and you're already in the United States, one way to help them can be to make sure that if they do arrive at the border and they are requesting that credible fear interview and they're struggling to get that, maybe they have an attorney on call, maybe they have some reporters available who are interested in what's happening there. There are a lot of advocates at our southern border who are ready and willing to help, and a lot of attorneys who are qualified also to potentially make a phone call, make a request. So it's good if you can do some pre-planning. I hope this video has been helpful. Again, I ask that you please subscribe, share the video, comment, leave us comments, um, take good care. Uh, we are dealing with a difficult moment, and people around the world still need protection. In many respects, in spite of everything difficult that's happening in the United States, it is still a safer country than many others. And we will still, for that reason, continue to see people coming to the US to seek protection. And we want to make sure their rights are protected. The credible fear interview is a right written into the law. And people just need to be sure that they are asking over and over and over for it so that they don't get removed before they are given that opportunity. Please share our video content, subscribe to our newsletter. You can go to our website at jlw.law. You can subscribe to our newsletter. And we will be updating people via email on the regular about these lives and about other information that is happening in the immigration world. And if you need our specific help with your case, please reach out. Our phone number is 512-633-1785. You can call us, and one of our team will be happy to help schedule you for a consultation. You can also go straight to our website, jlw.law, schedule an appointment directly on the website with me or any of the attorneys in our firm. And we would be happy to analyze your case, help you understand the likelihood of winning your case, what it's looking like, how we can help. And that is our honor and our passion at JLW. So, with that, I don't see questions. I'm going to sign off for today. And we will see you again next Wednesday at noon. Thank you so much.